Hey, this is Wookie from Mandala Studios. Welcome to the workshop. Today is part 2 of making a latex fungus mask moulding. So to start off with, we took our sculpture and we're starting to make the mould walls. So we just grabbed some water-based clay, just buff stoneware, and we cut strips that are about 6, 8, 10 mil thick, something like that. Whatever the clay cut is set to. And we cut that into 4 centimetre wide strips, and we just lay that evenly around the outside back of the sculpture, and then we repeat on the other side, putting in some supports at the back to hold that wall in place, because we're going to try and make this all in one piece. So we're going to make the mould wall go all the way around, removing it from the mouth and the back of the head, and then try and get it all off in one go so that we can do a 1-part mould. So we just need to keep doing that all the way around. You can see we've gone quite tight up to the sculpture. Then we just neaten off that wall, cut it nice and smooth. You can see we've put lots of support in and around the nose, pack it all in solidly. We brush in with a bit of wet on the brush to get that corner nice and neat, and then I'm just working out the position that I want the angle of the head to be at. So I pack it with a bag of clay on the back and then some clay under the front, and that all works. Then we take a bowl of warm water and we sprinkle in plaster until it sort of completely is the water is completely saturated with the plaster, so it starts islanding on the top surface. Let it slake, then start to brush it in carefully into the details. We're using a fine paintbrush to go in around the mushrooms and a big fat paintbrush to go in on the open surfaces, and then a medium-sized brush for the medium bits, bizarrely. So we're just keeping that all in, taking care not to destroy the fine gills under the mushroom pieces, and just work that through nice and evenly, make sure we don't get any air bubbles. You can see it's starting to thicken up, so we're trying to work that into the gaps, leaving no spaces for air pockets. We're just adding another layer of plaster now. If you want to see us mixing up more plaster and more details, there's loads of our other videos showing how we did it a bit more in depth than this. As ever, we're using Herculite 2 plaster. It's a good blend for strength and workability. You see we're really filling in that gap underneath each of those mushrooms now. So we want to get that solid for when we put the scrim over the whole surface to secure the whole thing. And see another layer, because we've got to build in all of that, and this is now smoothing out that whole surface. You can see it's looking a lot more even. So soon we'll be able to put the scrim on. Yeah, so now we're starting to put the scrim together. So we mix up the plaster as normal. We just get strips of Hessian scrim and we saturate it in the plaster, fold it in half and lay it down so that the folded edge is to the edge of the mould, so we don't get as many straggly bits, and we work that in and smooth it in to the whole surface. As ever, I don't like making the moulds too smooth because I just don't want them to be slippy if they get wet and I've got to move them around. So I like to leave a bit of texture and not worry about it too much. Just need to make sure it's all vaguely smooth, there's no sharp elements, but not so smooth that it's slippy later. And just start peeling off the clay wall when the plaster's nearly cured. And we just run over the corners with the Surform while the plaster's still a bit wet, so it makes it easy to work that through. Using a bigger Surform on those corners because of the mess we made going around the corners. That's pretty smooth. Then on to demoulding. So to do this, we're just digging out some of the clay with a wooden tool from the edges. We're a bit worried that it hasn't been perfectly evenly moulded, so that we might have a bit of an undercut over the whole head. So we work that tool in to make sure we're not going to get caught on the ears. It's just a case of working the clay out, carefully hitting it with a rubber mallet, seeing if we can dislodge things. Like, we're pretty sure it's not stuck at this point, but it's not moving anywhere, so that's exciting. And you saw this then at the end, it finally managed to move, and then it just popped off. Then we start what turned into a very, very long, boring job. We peeled out the water-based clay, and then there is lots of monster clay in a lot of tiny, tight spaces. And there was a lot of time now spent with lots of little pokey tools trying to clean out those pieces, bit by bit by bit. Using very small dental tools, which we really shouldn't be doing because we might scratch up the surface of the mould, but we were making sure we worked them so that any damage would have been done on the gills. Now in desperation, we're heat gunning it to soften the monster clay, see if we can ease it out that way, and that worked a lot better. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make moulds for the front and back so we can dwell the latex, or front and bottom so we can dwell the latex easier. So we've just put some water-based clay around the bottom of the mouth opening, put it on a bit of bubble wrap, and we just pour in some plaster, not too far, and then we're just going to gently tease it up onto the edge so as not to destroy any sculpture, and then leave it set. Then do the same thing again on a bit of bubble wrap, surround it with clay so we can pour some into the opening, so pour some plaster into the opening, carefully tease it up so that we can get the whole thing in a nice way that's easy to pour latex into. You might know I'm using slightly thinner plaster than normal. That's to allow it to flow under the surface in the corners at the back. So hopefully try and get some adhesion under there. And then peel off the clay and then work in with the finger just to get it into that back edge to make it nice. And there we go. You can see the liquidness still wasn't quite good enough, but there we go. Thanks very much. See you next time.